What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another video. Turbo Joe here. So I did not have a lot of time this week and over the weekend to make the video that I wanted to make. I wanted to do like a collection video of my repros and hacks collection, and talk a little bit about all my repros and hacks and share them with you guys. Didn't get a chance to do that. It required a little more editing that I'd have the time for. So I figured, I hear my son screaming upstairs. Sometimes the mic can pick up my son screaming upstairs. But anyway, never mind that now. I figured I'd just do a raw video just telling you a story that actually I was reminded of this story because this game right here, StarCraft 64, which is actually a repro. I used to have the original cart back in the day. I had sold it, but now if you try and get an authentic cart of StarCraft 64, it's worth about $300, sealed in or complete in box, going over like $500 just for the cartridge. But you could still get the ROM, the CD disc, and play it on your PC, because this was obviously, you guys know, if you subscribe to my channel, you're a hardcore gamer, you know that this is a PC game that was ported over to Nintendo 64. Great friggin' game on the Nintendo 64. So anyway, this reminded me of a story of when I had mailed my Nintendo 64 to Okinawa, Japan. Now, this is like a military-related story. Now, if you like these type of military stories, I actually have a couple more military stories that I have shared with the channel. The older subscribers would you guys would know, have been following me for a while. And I will leave I'll leave the links to other military-related stories in the description box if you guys are curious. So anyway, let's get started with the story. It's not too long. The time I mailed my Nintendo 64, or I had my Nintendo 64 mailed to Japan. So this is obviously going back to like 2002 when I was in the Marine Corps. Now, after I graduated through boot camp, my mother, she was like a nervous wreck when I went through boot camp. She did not want me to become a Marine, but after I went through boot camp and she met me, down at Paris Island, and she saw me going through the ceremony, she was very proud. And she was a proud, Marine mom, as, obviously all, Marine moms are very, and Marine dads are very proud when their kids go off and join the military. So, fast forward to after I graduated boot camp, I go through my military combat training, then I go out to my mech and flight school training because I was a aircraft mechanic. I was an aerial gunner on a CH-46 helicopter. So after I've completed all my training, I get my orders to go out. You get a wish list when you graduate all your training of where you'd like to be stationed, and I had chosen the East Coast. I'd like to be on East Coast, close to New York, not too far. I knew there's an aircraft base for the Marine Corps down in North Carolina. So I was hoping to get orders there, but no, I got orders for the far East Coast, which is Japan. So I was like, fuck, whatever. My first year in the fleet was going to be going out to Japan, and I was shipped out, after about 10 days of leave, I get shipped out to Okinawa, Japan. Now, it's a 14-hour time difference from, New York Eastern time. I was always 13 to 14 hours ahead of, my home. So anyway, I spent my first year in the fleet out in Okinawa. I had to share a room. It was like a tiny room, slightly smaller than your average studio apartment. I had to share it with two other Marines, which was not too bad, whatever. One of the Marines wound up being like a really close friend of mine, and we'll call him, I don't know, DK. He gets out to Okinawa probably about 4 to 5 weeks after I got there, so I was a little bit more ahead of him, a little more established, and we instantly became friends. He was from Albany, New York. I'm from, native to Brooklyn, New York, but so we had a lot in common. We were both very competitive. We were both badass fucking Marines, with little chips on our shoulders, rebels, get into a little trouble in the law in our late teens, early 20s. We became really good friends, and we became like competitive rivals in the military. Especially on the weekends, he'd get a little drunk and he'd want to take a shot at me, and we would go fucking wrestling in the fucking barracks. I'd always have a one-up on him. I just so happened to edge him in fighting, wrestling, or video gaming, which is the topic we're leaning to. he would come at me like raw, like this, raw Marine right out of fucking boot camp with no technique. So I would easily just wrap him up and fucking take him down and check him like, listen, dude, calm the fuck down. I'm tough. I got you, bro. Calm down. All right. So anyway, DK, we became really good friends. And later on, after we did our year at Okinawa, I finally got my orders to go down to North Carolina where I wanted to be, and he went out to the West Coast to California. And we later met up while we were in theater in Iraq, which was pretty, dramatic and emotional to meet up with a lot of friends that I known from my journey in the Marine Corps. We met up in theater in Iraq, so it was cool to see a lot of guys, from training from here, because there's a lot of different steps you take as you go through your Marine Corps, especially in your first enlistment, your Marine Corps journey, so to speak. So anyway, getting to the meat of this topic. So anyway, my friend DK, like I said, we were very competitive. And I remember, living in Okinawa, I'll never forget, like Saturday mornings in the barracks, living on an aircraft base, these F-18s would come fucking roaring in, doing touchdown trainings at like 6 o'clock in the morning. These F-18s were so damn friggin' loud. I'd say like 5 times louder than a friggin', I don't know, like a lawnmower in your ear or a fucking blow dryer in your face. So loud. Wake up the entire barracks. So the 1 or 2 days you get to sleep in on a Saturday and Sunday if you got off. You got these F-18s coming in. Oh, it was brutal. Tough. It was tough to get through that first 12 months living out in Okinawa, but it was cool. I got to meet a lot of cool guys, a lot of cool Marines out there, and the culture, the Japanese and Okinawa culture was really cool. They had a lot of, they were into, in the early 2000s when I was in Okinawa, they were into like salsa merengue clubs. The local female Okinawans, they would like to go to these nightclubs at night. So me and my roommate and a couple of friends that would tag along with us, we'd hit up the nightclubs on the weekends, which was pretty cool. I used to put in like these blue contacts in my eyes, and the local Japanese chicks would they go ape shit over me, man. It was a lot of fun. And me and of course DK were always competitive with everything. So getting girls was also another thing. And he'd often bring girls home at night, and obviously we had an open friggin' studio. So if he brought a girl home, he'd listen to the sounds and shit. It was freaking crazy. He had no friggin' standards. He'd bring anything home, whereas I wouldn't be bringing home, a girl for them to listen to, like her, make whatever. So anyway, I keep getting sidetracked with this story. So like I said, me and DK were very competitive, and the topic of video games obviously eventually came up, and it just so happened he was a legend in StarCraft. He was the greatest StarCraft in the world. You can't beat his defenses. You can't touch him. Blah 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 blah. So I was like, wait a minute. I knew I could beat this whole thing on the hardest of settings. I beat every single whatever. So I knew I was friggin' good. You know me. I like to compete. And there was no way living out in Okinawa that I can prove to him that, I beat his ass, or he can show me, he can back up all he's saying. So I was like, you know what? Let me get my mother on the phone. I'll have her mail my friggin' Nintendo 64 out to Okinawa with some games. At the time, early 2000s, I think it cost like $70, $80 to mail my Nintendo 64, to Okinawa to get my console. My mother, especially when I was in the Marine Corps, she spoiled the shit out of me. Anything that I asked for, she was willing to help me out, and which really pissed off my brother, by the way. But I'll never forget when I was in Iraq, man. She wanted me to call her almost every day, and I tried to do it almost every day. I tried to call her like after my shifts or missions, or my tours. I would most of my missions are at nighttime, so in the morning I would try and get to a satellite phone. We had like these little tents, satellite communications, but you had to pay for it with your own money. So my mother would mail me like this credit cards so I can use like the what they had there, like the satellite phones. So you had to pay, a third party, to call, via satellite phones. So often I'd be talking to my mother in the mornings, and she'd hear like some noise in the background. She'd hear machine gun fire or or like fucking, you know, loud explosions and shit. And she's like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? And I'd be like, no, don't worry about it, Mom. We're just doing some training exercises. Or, you know, another time I would tell her, oh, it's fireworks. No, you know, I used to always bullshit her, but meanwhile the base is getting attacked, and there's no shit. We're getting shot at and hit with rocket attacks while I'm on the phone with her. It was like a daily occurrence, and it was just something you were used to. And yeah, we've had they would go after us. They'd hit our like mess halls. They'd hit our you know, communications facilities, try and hit our ammo dumps. They'll try and shoot at our aircraft. I mean, they try to take shots at us, but very often would they directly engage the Marines. They just fucking light time fuses and attack us from the distance. They don't want no fucking piece of this shit. They were cowards, man. They were no shit fucking cowards. But anyway, so yeah, my mother would, when I was in Iraq, my mother would mail me fucking packages of like crackers and snacks, beef jerky, because I could not eat the fucking goop that they served out in Iraq, man. The only decent meal in Iraq that the cook served us was breakfast, because you really couldn't fuck up eggs, right? Or cereal. Although the milk was definitely not fucking cow dairy. There's no fucking way. That milk tasted like, I don't know where. It was definitely not cow dairy milk. I know what cow milk tastes like. So this was something else, but whatever. It wasn't bad. I had my cereal and my eggs in the morning, and I couldn't eat it. And lunch or dinner was fucking unedible, like prison food. So my mother would mail me packages, and yeah, she spoiled me rotten. So anyway, Okinawa, she mailed me my Nintendo 64, and it was fucking, I was like Christmas when I got that package. She threw a shitload of my cartridges in there, and you know, it didn't take long before I unboxed that fucker. My other roommate had a nice little like 13-inch TV, so eventually my roommate had a 20-inch TV, and I wound up buying one at the PX in Okinawa, a little side TV, so me and DK can play all fucking night, and I would fucking own him. But it was so much fun getting to play, you know, co-op on our free time, StarCraft. We had a lot of, I mean, the first, it was no holds barred. Like, I wound up beating him using the Zerg in like fucking like 90 seconds. Like, I would do like a free quick spawn and just overrun him with Zerglings before he can even set up anything. And you know, I just fucking own his ass. But it was so much fun to play him. And eventually he got better. You know, he learned a lot by playing against me. He you know, learned some things that he never thought of. It was cool. And you know, my other roommate was a big Zelda fan, so I had brought over I think Majora's Mask for him. And yeah, so he played that on his own when we weren't playing fucking StarCraft. So it was nice. All three of us got a lot of love from the Nintendo 64 in Okinawa, Japan. And that's my story, guys. I didn't have time for anything else. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. Next week I'll do my repros and hacks video, and this Wednesday night live we're gonna be live streaming from my Capcom Legacy cabinet. I'm gonna try and beat Street Fighter 2 on the hardest arcade setting live. So it should be a fun little hangout. And yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you again real soon on the next one. Peace out, guys.